Welcome to Modern Church Leader, a short daily show to help you grow your church, be more effective and efficient, and powerful for the kingdom of God.
So, hey, my name is Wes Gay, and I help organizations figure out how to talk about themselves. Now, in the church, that sounds like a really odd premise because we say, why do we need to talk about ourselves? But the truth is, we need to learn not how to talk about ourselves, but how to better tell the story of Jesus and the work of his church. Now, that's a broad topic for sure. But when we get confusing in that, we're actually causing people to burn calories and think just a little too hard, right? People forget that thinking on its own actually burns a lot of calories. I mean, think of the last time you were in budget season, you went to one of those all-day offsite meetings or just a really long, tense staff meeting. You walk out of those situations and go, I'm exhausted. But you look at your fitness tracker and you're like, I didn't even go 3,000 steps. It's not like I ran a marathon or did a Tough Mudder, but I'm drained. It's because we burn calories when we're thinking. And the more we think, the more calories we burn. Now, for churches, the implication is we've got to be more clear in what we communicate to our people. What we are communicating has and should have eternal significance and eternal value. But too often, we confuse people, right? It might be it's our internal branding that makes no sense, like student ministries who have everything based on stuff that sounds dangerous, like collide and ignite and explode and impact or whatever. All right, so we have all this internal branding and messaging, but our people don't know what it means. Our visitors don't know what it means. Our staff struggles to communicate it. At the end of the day, we're just missing opportunities to reach people because we're taking too many opportunities to confuse people. And what ends up, I think the real culprit here, particularly in the modern era where churches are getting more on board with how do we leverage kind of best-in-class strategies and tools for marketing and communications in the modern age, using the same mentalities and approaches that big brands use, that small brands use, online entrepreneurs use, taking those same things and replicating that in the church. Our initial response is, how do I do it? How do I say it? Where do I go? How do I set this up? What do we do? We look at cameras for YouTube and ring lights and microphones and podcast orders and all these other things. But we rarely take the time to stop and go, what are we actually going to say? Like when that camera turns on for our 60-second devotional, what should we say? Right? What are we trying to communicate to people? People aren't giving, right? If people aren't giving on a weekly basis, it could be that your tools aren't very good, but it also very well could be you're just not being really clear in why they're giving or how to give. You're not communicating in a way. You haven't decided what you need to say so that people will engage. You haven't decided what to say in a way that matters to folks. And so what I do with people is I help people use this storytelling formula called the story brand framework to help people figure out how do we say stuff so companies can sell more of their goods, nonprofits can raise more money, and churches can reach more people. And the great thing about formulas is it gives us a really clear path and a really solid direction as to how we need to go talk to people. I watched a video recently of the two guys who wrote the Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. I mean, combined, those movies grossed like $4 billion or something absurd. What amazed me, though, is they said when they sat down to start writing the scripts in 2015, they had never written something quite like this before, which amazes me, by the way. Side note, if you feel maybe ill-equipped in your church to do certain things, the guys who wrote two of the biggest movies of all time felt the same way. So the book they found on Amazon is by this guy named Sid Field. It's called Screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting. It's a great book if you want to go check it out. So they bought a book on Amazon. It's like a beginner's guide to screenwriting. How do you write a screenplay, right? The last two Avengers films are based on a book the guys bought on Amazon. But what they talk through in this interview is they show the book, and I actually just bought it and started to read it. And they show all these specific things that make great stories. And it was a formula. And that formula became Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, two of the highest grossing films of all time. Avengers Endgame grossed like $2.4 billion by using a formula and using a framework. So what does this mean for churches, though? You're obviously not writing a screenplay. You're obviously not trying to write the next big superhero movie. You're not trying to make billions of dollars at the box office. You're simply trying to get people to show up to your next event. You're trying to get new people to come to your church. You're trying to get people to volunteer in children's ministry. You're trying to get more kids to show up to student ministry. You're trying to get more people to give on a weekly basis and give to your next giving campaign for missions or for your local community. So what do formulas and what does messaging have to do with that? Well, if you do a little work and look at things like StoryBrand or look at other tools and formulas and frameworks that help you communicate more clearly, all of a sudden you will become a lot more effective because you're doing the hard work to decide, what do I need to say to people so that they care and they get engaged with what we're talking about. So we stop saying, hey, don't miss it, or hey, you should be there, but instead say, you're struggling with this, or this is a real problem in our community, and because you give, we get to resolve that issue so that more people can have hope, or more kids can have backpacks of food, or whatever that thing is. So my challenge to you is start looking at the different formulas and the different frameworks that exist out there. StoryBrand's a great one. There's others that say, how do we communicate more clearly by finding the words that matter most? When we know what to say, it's really easy to figure out how to go say it. It's really easy to start setting up all those tools. And the best part is once we set up all that stuff and we start using, again, world-class, best-in-class strategies and tools, all of a sudden we'll become far more effective. Our return will be much greater. But more importantly, more people will be introduced to the story of Jesus and the work of his church simply because we figured out the right things to say so that they care and that they engage.
Thanks for listening. Please review Modern Church Leader on Apple Podcasts and visit our website for more resources at tithe.ly or follow the links in the show notes.